What profession would it be really difficult to live without, but we don't even suspect it? Story 1. You should go binge old episodes of Dirty Jobs. Those folks make life easy for the rest of us. Answer. I spent a summer doing a job that was on that show. Hydroseeding. Honestly, it's not the worst job I've had, and I basically got to work as much as I wanted, but it was pretty fucking dirty at times and tiring as hell. It was remediation for brand new fiber networks, so you had to do a little at every house in a neighborhood, just dragging the hose down the road, maneuvering around parked cars all day. If you fuck up and end up wearing the hydroseed, it's going to be an itchy day, as now you're wearing a mixture of wood fiber, grass seed, and a sprinkling of fertilizer for good measure, sweating in the sun the whole time. Do it for 16 hours a day, 6 days a week for a summer, and you're damn near unstoppable. Also, all of the money in your bank account you don't have time to spend is a nice touch, I suppose. Thankfully, I got promoted the fuck out of there and do more technical work now where my hourly is a lot better and I sweat a lot less. Story 2, plumber. You only realize how much you need one when things start getting messy. Answer, not even just messes. Plumbers are also what gets the water to your house for showers, sinks, air conditioners, etc. They also pipe the gas that heats your homes or cooks your food. But yes, we would also live in a much stinkier world without plumbing. Answer, I've often told people that running water is the closest most of us will come to understanding the whole money doesn't make you happy thing, even though not having it is pretty fucking miserable. Hot showers, clean water for drinking, flushing toilets, etc. Take that away, people get miserable fast and dead in a few days. But we're not all sitting around in constant joy when it's there. Story 3. Probably some realize this, but semi-truck drivers, your average grocery store is about a week out from being empty, generally speaking. Answer, I live at a ski resort. It's a very popular ski resort. When there are bad blizzards, sometimes we don't get deliveries for days. Tourists don't understand why there isn't food. Answer, for sure, we barely think about it, but produce that's seasonal. Oranges, strawberries, etc. I can have them pretty much anytime I want. I need something, hop on the internet, order it. Within a few weeks, I have it, if not sooner. It's amazing, but it's only possible due to a very active logistical system behind it all. Story 4, janitors. Answer, when I was in the office, W of H now, I was usually there at 6:30 a.m. in a very 9-5 office. Traffic was awful past 4 p.m., so I wanted to bail by 3:30. Anyway, the only one else there from 6:30 to 7:30 was the janitorial staff. No one in the company realized the janitors were the ones starting the coffee makers for everyone, so there was hit coffee for everyone when they strolled in. They also kept the bathrooms impeccably clean. And no one ever saw or appreciated the overnight crew that would clean up after all the desk jockeys eating lunch at their desk, getting catered lunches in boardrooms, etc. And the craziest thing was, the janitors were the nicest, most pleasant, and seemingly happiest people in the office. Answer, I didn't really get it until I met one. He loved his job and talked about it all the time. I eventually realized that it's such a crucial profession, but unfortunately it's undervalued. I feel like society doesn't really appreciate the important work they do. There would literally be no functional buildings without them. They might the ones keeping your offices clean and making sure you can use the bathroom when you're out of your house. They're also keeping the light bulbs on and the reason why you're not getting any infection when you breathe inside a building. They handle so many basic tasks crucial for both maintaining your health and keep your business going. It kind of frustrates me that they don't get more recognition. Story 5. Another ask thread where people ignore part of the question. Every comment I've seen lists various types of either unskilled or highly manual blue-collar work, where it's obvious to everyone we absolutely need them, even if we treat them like shit. For me, I'm going with the profession keeping a number of aged, wizened old IT programmers employed. COBOL software engineer. Most of the public wouldn't know COBOL if their house was wallpapered in the stuff, but this basically dead computer language is holding up a shocking amount of the financial sector. Even the most ardent anti-capitalists would agree a huge global financial crash caused by a lack of COBOL engineers to support the ancient mainframes finance still runs would be absolutely fucking catastrophic to the world. Story 6, social workers. Don't get me wrong, some don't do their jobs, but millions of kids are saved by their assessments. And childhood trauma is the foundation to every issue we have in this world. Answer, I had obsessive-compulsive disorder in elementary school, and my social worker was the only one to not just recognize it, but recommend a then experimental, this was the late 90s, therapy process. I was cured within a year without any medication and haven't worried about it since, thanks to her. Story 7, civil engineers. I always say we're the world's stay-at-home mom. Nobody quite knows what we do for a living, but when we get underfunded, often because our work is things that are forgettable to the average person, and things don't get done, very important things fall apart, and people get very angry about that. Answer: I'm an anesthesiologist, not a civil engineer. But I once heard a saying about civil engineers that I have always thought applied well to anesthesia. People forget we are here, and no one really notices that we are doing anything until it gets done badly. Story 8: Construction workers. They're so critical to everything we do now. I worked construction for 6 months and learned more in those 6 months than I thought possible. It's amazing how much of our buildings are aligned and placed based on a handful of yarn. Story 9: Your veterinarians. Surgery is very complex, and I get the feeling a lot of people think because they're animals, it's just simple stupid. But it is not simple nor stupid. I've aided in some very hairy, pun-intended surgeries, and it's crazy the amount of disrespect we've received from clients over the pettiest things. Please listen to the doctor. They know what they are doing. Story 10. I work in HVAC controls. People don't know that a job exists where every large building needs someone to write a custom computer program to run their HVAC system, and that the absolute wrong person to call most of the time to fix something in the building is a local HVAC company. Answer: I work in industrial refrigeration, and so many of our factory systems are one-offs or are very specialized compared to typical HVAC or refrigeration in a store or warehouse. We stopped allowing any but one contractor to work on any of the machines directly, and even then it's primarily in-house only repairs because of the cost and time to get that contractor on site. Story 11. I'd say the people who maintain our internet infrastructure. We rely on the internet for pretty much everything, from work to entertainment, but we hardly ever think about the technicians and engineers who keep it all running smoothly. Imagine living without Google Maps, LOL. Answer: imagine living without Google Maps, LOL. Gonna guess you're relatively young because I for sure remember life before Google Maps. What you had were just called maps. It concerns me the number of people who literally can't get places without GPS guidance. 200 years ago, those people were called dead. Story 12. Food distribution. From warehouse workers to delivery drivers to shelf stockers, I've worked it. It is one of the most thankless, dead-end professions on earth, yet it's easily the most necessary. Because what would happen if the supply chain shut down? We can't all go farm hunt for our food. Millions would starve. Cities would burn down. Story 13. Sanitation workers, hands down. We rarely think about them, but without them, cities would be drowning in garbage, and disease would spread so fast. They keep everything running smoothly behind the scenes, and most of us don't even realize how crucial their work is until something goes wrong. Story 14. Professional movers of any kind. Go back and watch any old movie and you'll see some, at least as background characters. And they look pretty much the same as they do today. Just two guys that show up, know how to heft some heavy shit up and down stairs and make that part of life a lot easier for the rest of us. Story 15. One profession we don't often think about but would struggle without is maintenance workers. They keep our buildings and infrastructure running smoothly, from fixing leaky pipes to ensuring electrical systems work properly. It's easy to overlook their work until something goes wrong, but without them, our daily lives would be much more chaotic and inconvenient. Their behind-the-scenes efforts are crucial for maintaining the quality of life we often take for granted. Story 16. Inventory management specialists. They work behind the scenes to ensure supply chains run smoothly and that stock levels are maintained for just about every product we use. Without them, stores and warehouses would be chaotic, shortages would be rampant, and it would be impossible to find what we need when we need it. They're the unsung heroes of retail and product availability, and they deserve much more recognition for keeping our shelves stocked and our purchases flowing seamlessly from click to delivery. Story 17. Truckers. Yeah, we are the biggest things on the road, and sometimes the slowest, but everything would come to a stop. Everything. Oxygen at hospitals, building materials, food, clothing, fuel. I never get any kind of recognition from anyone but other truckers, unless someone screws up and there's an accident. You never see viral news stories about how drivers rescue people in trafficking situations, or you never realize how close you come to crashing into the truck when you make an exit sweep on the highway. Trucking is classified as unskilled labor, vastly underpaid and underappreciated. I spend sometimes 2 months away from my children in the original tiny home because someone likes chicken strips. Story 18. A lot of great answers, so I'm going to throw one I haven't seen yet, but artists. I think a lot of people take for granted how much art and they really consume every day, from movies and TV shows and music to even just decorations and embellishments that make their living spaces more interesting. Without artists, gone would be all the entertainment we consume, all the fancy desserts and foods. The culinary arts is an art form after all. Without photographers, we wouldn't get our wedding photos and special events captured. No more comic books or paintings or drawings. Everything would be gray and dull and soullessly manufactured. Story 19. Asterisk prepares for a downvote deluge asterisk. Parking enforcement officers. Everyone hates them, but they make parking possible. Some are assholes, but that's true of every profession. Every major artery in every major city would grind to a halt, with quadruple parked clowns saying, "Just a minute," as they head into a theater to watch a movie. Story 20 prostitutes. Truly doing the Lord's work, relieving us of incels' worst behaviors. They exist even in the most oppressive societies, where the profession is illegal, and despite serving a critical societal function, are generally reviled and lambasted without any appreciation for what society would be like without these hard-working, compassionate angels. Story 21. As a cement mixer driver, probably me. Want to build anything? You're going to need concrete. I didn't even think about it before I got this job. Like I had no idea how many things use concrete and mixer trucks to get it from point A to B. I mean, doing a house foundation with bags of cement, you're going to have a bad time. Now look at skyscrapers. It's an essential business I was barely even aware of for a quarter of a century. Story 22 machinists. The vast majority of people don't even know we exist, and of the ones who do, only a portion actually understand what we do. Every piece of technology that humanity has taken advantage of for the last 150 or so years was either made by a machinist or made on machines which were made by machinists. Story 23. Futures traders play a surprisingly important role in modern industry. This is something most people don't realize, but many industries don't manufacture products based solely on end consumer demand. Instead, they often produce a pre-agreed amount of goods because someone has already purchased them at a specific price through futures contracts. These producers aren't overly concerned with finding buyers or accounting for market volatility, since they know that if they produce a certain amount of aluminum or potatoes, they will get paid a predetermined price for it, regardless of current demand. This allows them to establish processes that enable consistent production, knowing that market fluctuations won't cripple their business. Without this layer of stability, large-scale production would be far too unstable to reliably supply the global market with the myriad of products that go into everyday items. Story 24, civil engineering. You want to get somewhere? We build solid roads. You want clean water at any time? We design treatment and storage. You don't want an outhouse? We design your sanitary main and water treatment. You need to cross a river? We build bridges to get you there. You need a good foundation? We test your soil and design subgrades. You want a building? We make sure it doesn't collapse through design. Story 25, teachers. Unfortunately, we are likely to see the results in the next few years as more and more teachers quit and less start each year. Without them, kids don't learn structure, organization, professionalism, subjects in general, life skills. Parents wouldn't be able to work because with no teachers, there'd be no schools, so their kids would be at home 24/7. It would cripple the economy and drastically affect the future generations. Story 26. For many years, one job duty I had involved calling complete strangers to advise them a loved one had died. In most of these cases, the death was completely unexpected. In many cases, the death was violent, such as from a bombing. I also had to train new employees how to make these calls. When you think about it, there are simple ways to make the call more sympathetic and less confusing, such as speaking softly and slowly. There are also ways to prepare someone for the bad news, such as making sure they understand from the very start who is making the call and from where, and by saying right off that you have some very sad and difficult news to give them. Are they with someone who can be supportive, etc.? It helps a lot to give someone even just 20 seconds to start realizing what is coming. People invariably ask how I could stand doing this task. I always answer, 1, it is a privilege to help people through their hardest times, and 2, I'd rather it be me doing the job well than someone else doing the job poorly. Story 27, philosophers. A lot of insights in other fields like mathematics and sciences come about as a result of philosophical inquiries regarding the epistemological and ontological approaches in regard to fields such as mathematics and sciences, which have a very palpable effect on how the modern world has been shaped with stuff like technology and scientific understanding. For example, if Aristotle didn't philosophize about logical reasoning and go on to develop formal logic, then it's unlikely that Euclid would have published Elements, which was a key publication that got people to take mathematics seriously. And then that never would have led to the discovery over 2,000 years later that the parallel postulate in Euclid's Elements does not apply to non-Euclidean geometry, which then would not have spurred on the foundational crisis of mathematics, which led to attempts for mathematicians to axiomatize all of mathematics, which then led to logician Kurt Gödel's proving that it's not possible to do so with his incompleteness theorems, which directly inspired Alan Turing to invent the modern computer. If it wasn't for Aristotle's philosophizing thousands of years ago, there's a chance we might still be living in the medieval ages today. Story 28. Accountants. Make the world go round because money makes the world go round. Accountants tell businesses what they can and can't afford, how and when to apply their current resources, and where to find new ones. All those critical jobs would exist without an accountant in the back crunching numbers and saying, "Hey boss, you spent $50,000 last week and you only have $10,000 left. Maybe charge our clients more?" Story 29. Trash collectors. Paris had a strike last summer and the streets got nasty fast. The rats moved in and enjoyed the feast, along with the flies, scavenger birds, and bugs of all sorts. Water plant operators. These folks keep us from having cholera, E. coli, Giardia, cryptosporidium outbreaks. Sewer plant operators get the human waste cleaned up and back into the rivers. Food suppliers / truck and train operators. Remember during the pandemic when the trucks were shut down for a few days? It took weeks to get it straightened out. Utility folks who keep the power on. Law enforcement keep anarchy from raining down upon us. Maybe nobody is surprised by my list here, but I spent years running industrial camps and have had all these issues at one point. But water, sewer, and trash are basic needs that have to be maintained every day for people to survive. Used to get in discussions with oil companies about tank size. If you're feeding 50 people 4 meals per day, they're using the restrooms. So every person uses around 70 gallons of water per day, plus 6 to 10 pounds of food, including waste from preparation. You will need a 300 BBL tank, around 13,000 gallons of water, and a 500-700 BBL tank for waste, then a 3-6-yard trash basket for the waste, possibly a 2-yard recycling basket. All of these will need to be refilled or emptied every few days. All need to be in balance. Story 30. Marketing. As much as I hate being surrounded by ads, most companies wouldn't make it without marketing. You can't just open a food stand somewhere without at least setting up a sign. You can only go so far with word of mouth, although there are cases where it worked. If you work for a company, chances are good they need marketing to keep you at work. Story 31. Televangelist priests who have hundreds of millions don't pay taxes and tell people they don't love God if they don't keep donating. Preach, have a TV church, but don't scam people out of millions a month. There was one guy, Jesse Duplantis, who told his followers that God wanted him to have a new jet, and they needed to give him $54 million to buy it because his current jet was outdated. Kenneth Copeland defended his jet, saying that he couldn't be expected to get on a crappy plane full of dopeheads and demons. Excuse me? You mean the people who you're supposed to serve who send you money? Story 32. Parks management staffers. They're making sure the lakes you fish in are managed in a way that keeps the fish alive. They're in the forest looking for diseased trees and unnatural things like invasive plants and animals, or mass death events, big patches of dead plants, or a river full of dead fish. On the rivers that draw tourists for canoeing, they're removing trees blocking the waterway and hazards, debris caused by flooding. And when there's an accident, they'll probably be the first people on the scene because they know their area so well. In more rural areas, they're likely also first responders. Story 33. Buyers, purchasing agents. This is what I do for a living, and it's much more challenging than people know. We deal with allocations, shipping issues, tax exemption, shortages, return, authorizations, requests for quotes, minimum order requirements, and a slew of other issues that make it really challenging. Every vendor has different rules for how to submit orders, and then knowing which branch of their company to contact. Currently on hold after a third transfer. A purchase is rarely done in one step, and in healthcare, or formerly government projects, you have to make sure every detail is correct, or it will cost you a lot of time and money. We're the invisible cogs behind every business that keeps it in business. Story 34. Garbage refuse collectors. Without a doubt. Farmers / fishermen, animals, fruits, or veg. Transport infrastructure, from drivers to managers. Retail's workers. Any medical professions, law and order, or emergency professions. Anyone working within essential national supplies such as water, electricity, and gas. Teachers, professors, and anyone working in school environment, so essential people can go to work. And many more professions I may have forgotten. Basically, any professions listed as key workers under COVID, plus the few we didn't think about. Story 35. I mean, most trades in general are a good response to this. Any of those go down, you'll sure notice. A more interesting one, IMO, because I'm in the profession, and one most people don't expect, is working with navigation satellite systems. GPS, for example, is used not just for the convenience of everyone driving, but also airplanes, ships, other spacecraft require it to operate as intended. GPS also offers a time solution that is pretty stable and available worldwide. So things like the U.S. power grid, when reconnecting grids, I think, and banking transactions use GPS time operate. I enjoy talking about how many things absolutely rely on not just GPS, but stable clock sources, period. Those guys over at NIST and Naval Research Lab do a lot of work so that many of the things we use and rely on operate as intended. Story 36. Public health workers. Public health had a moment in the last several years, usually invisible. But people don't think about what would happen without restaurant inspections, well and septic inspections, communicable disease control, not just COVID, public immunizations, foodborne illness tracking, rabies tracking, TB control. Yes, people still get TB and more. Story 37. Land, Game, and Wildlife Management Services. They do so much to protect and halt the loss of Earth's biodiversity through extensive research and sustainability projects. They contribute not only to our ability to enjoy public land parks without getting eaten by predators, but they closely monitor changes in the ecosystem that could potentially impact everything from food supply to disease transmission in humans. And they're actively working on restoring and combating effects due to climate change. Story 38. I lived in New York City during both the blackout of 2003 as well as Hurricane Sandy in 2012. Weirdly, people did okay without electricity, but it made me really appreciate the networks and upkeep of our roads, bridges, tunnels, and highways. So basically, if the profession of road maintenance went away, we'd be fucked. Cities live or die based on a constant stream of food and good traveling to the city. If you take away that ability by destroying the roads, cities are done in a matter of weeks. It will take a while, but once the first road falls to shit, the whole thing goes belly up. Story 39. Farmers, ranchers, especially cattle ranchers, and even people that still use horses as their primary mode of transport in working with agriculture. We would suffer a lot if they didn't exist. Also, writers. I am an author and an avid reader. The world would be a sad place indeed without stories. I mean, heck, technology has made advancements inspired by stories for years. Look at Star Trek and Doctor Who versus the cell phone, automatic doors, and the modern elevator and tablets and voice-activated systems. Someone wrote about these innovative ideas in a script, and media showed it on television, and engineers were inspired. The world is a better place because of the imaginations of writers. Story 40. Anyone working in the food supply chain, seriously, farmers, agricultural scientists, HVAC professionals, supply chain management, all of it. Every great civilization is only 3 meals away from collapse. People need to eat, and there are so many jobs you've never really thought of that are absolutely critical to food supply infrastructure. Especially in the U.S., we take our food systems for granted. But don't be fooled. That system is delicate. Story 41. Clinical Research Associates. They go to clinical trial sites and make sure that the clinical trials testing the medications you take are being run to the extremely high industry standards. They're the first line on identifying mismanagement, negligence, or general fuckery by any principal investigators or other site clinical team members. Lots of travel, lots of dealing with site personnel who want nothing to do with you or see you as the enemy. Next time you take a medication without fear of it doing unknown shit to you, thank CRAs. Story 42. Your local water authority's personnel. Most people take for granted that every time they open their tap, clean water comes out. We work pretty damn hard, whether it's the operators treating the water, the mechanics fixing the way outdated machinery, or the distribution people fixing broken pipes. We all put in the hours to make sure the system stays functioning. Most of the time, we're the most underpaid in the city. I'll get off the soapbox, but I actually like my job, just wished we were a bit more appreciated. Story 43. Food safety inspectors would be my best. Oh, I didn't think about that. Every commercial kitchen has bad habits that form over time. It is inevitable. Without food safety inspections, there's nothing stopping a kitchen from slowly dropping standards over time until people get sick and potentially die. If you extend that into food production, for example, industrial bakeries, slaughterhouse processing plants, etc., the risks would absolutely skyrocket. Aside from that, basically every trade job, plumber, joiner, electrician, etc. Story 44. One profession that's often overlooked but essential is that of a sewer system engineer, ***. These professionals design, maintain, and ensure the functionality of the infrastructure that handles wastewater and stormwater. Without their work, sanitation systems would fail, leading to public health crises and environmental issues. Despite its critical importance, it's a role that many people might not think about until there's a problem. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it, be sure to write comments and share your stories.